Hey everyone, my name is Brian Howard. I'm a Calgary realtor who has sold an average of a house a week since moving to this great city in 2003. And this is Calgary Living. I'm interviewing Calgary's top performers as it relates to living and lifestyle in our great city. Some of the podcasts will be real estate decision specific, but most will be about life in Calgary and why we choose to live here, or at least why you should visit. Thanks for tuning in. On today's show, I had the great fortune to meet Zach Trolley. Zach's been in Calgary for more than 20 years. He's an electrical engineer and has worked in the energy industry for years. And in 2014, he attended International Space University and did a simulated Mars mission in 2018. Zach is an engineer, space evangelist, a futurist, and a great communicator. Zach is the executive director of Ascension West. Ascension West was created to fully enable Western Canada to participate in the space economy. Zach's aim is to educate industry groups, companies, and the government about the opportunities ahead of us and how Western Canada can play a key role in the developing space resources market. Enjoy the show with Zach. I was introduced to you through our mutual friend, I believe, Julie Vincent. You're an engineer and a space exploration enthusiast. Wow. And I haven't met a lot of folks experienced as you in space. Tell me, Zach, just to get started, what brought your interest in space and how did that happen?
So I was going to school kind of junior high level right around when the Mars Pathfinder mission was landing on Mars. And that was right when the internet was very, very brand new. And it was the first time where you could log into the internet and see pictures change over time. Everyone likes looking at space books and the planets, but they're static pictures in the book. And, at the age of about 13, 14, I could see, picture of yesterday, there's no rover tracks. Picture today, there's rover tracks. And that kind of sparked my imagination of, well, if we can drive rovers on Mars, what's it going to take to put people on Mars? And then from there, blossomed into this hobby that I have right now of basically, doing space exploration, figuring out how people and how that industry is evolving and how it basically affects our everyday lives that we don't really realize.
Wow, interesting. And so that was this like 1994? I'm just guessing. I don't even know when that might have been.
The Pathfinder mission ran in 1997.
97. Okay, so the internet was hitting up and Netscape was popular and maybe the new...
Right on the top of that curve, right? I think Napster was a few years off yet. So, people are just figuring out what it was all about. And in that, I just stumbled across space. Wow, fascinating.
Interesting. So at that time, you were living somewhere else. I think you came to Calgary about 1999. Where did you move from and what brought you to Calgary in 99?
So it was my dad's work. His company kept getting bought out. And as a regional manager, his region kept changing. So we moved to Calgary from BC.
Okay.
In 99.
What part of British Columbia?
We were in Kelowna.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But for myself, actually, I was on a student exchange in Japan. So technically, I moved from Japan to Calgary.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And so tell me, so kind of growing up through your sort of elementary and junior high school years in Kelowna, and then getting this fascination with space and I guess kind of engineering, I suppose. Mm-hmm. What was that like in Kelowna? And was Japan and Calgary a better place to kind of grow up with your strong interest in that? I know you went to school at Western Canada High.
Yeah. Calgary, the space industry is pretty thin in Western Canada. We do have some in satellite mapping, and there is some satellite uplink communication for remote areas. But in terms of rocket ships and things like that, Alberta, Saskatchewan are pretty thin. So up until about 10 years ago, it was just fascinating hobby for me.
Oh, well, okay, just a hobby. So let's go back to about the sort of lifestyle and living in Calgary. What strikes you about living in Calgary?
Well, I think I have a different, viewpoint in Calgary that a lot of my people might have. So When we moved here in '99, we moved in the Southwest in Oak Ridge. We were a family of 5, so we needed kind of some space to grow. And yeah, went, like you said, went to Western Canada High. So my path was Southwest, Pro Child downtown. That was kind of my area. And when I moved out, I spent most of my time, actually, all my time around the downtown core. So I've lived in Mission, Lower Mount Royal, Bridgeland, and right now I'm in Kensington. So my view of Calgary, I walked most places. I use the river pathway system. Going downtown, being able to walk downtown is a huge plus for me. So, that river parkway system, that pathway system, Stevens Avenue, all those walkable areas in Calgary is really what I enjoy about the city.
Interesting. And so you're currently living downtown. I believe you're renting.
We actually own in Kensington.
Oh, you own in Kensington now.
Yep.
Okay, great. And what year did you make that purchase? Was this your first purchase or?
No, it was my wife's first. It was my third.
Oh, your third. Okay. For some reason, I assumed that, or I don't know why I thought that. But so you've had quite a lot of real estate experience then.
Yeah, my parents actually had some rental properties when we were growing up. So I understood how real estate worked and how that operated. So I bought my first condo just before the first boom. So 2005.
Oh, true. Right.
And then I sold in 2008.
Just before it crashed, maybe.
A little, yeah. Actually, just before it crashed, and actually went back to engineering school. So I went back to Ontario for 3 years to finish my engineering degree. Came back, lived with my parents for a bit because, again, things were a bit touch and go there.
Yeah.
And then bought another condo in Bridgeland. This is my first home that I had. So I had 2 condos and a house.
Okay. And so that second one that you bought, it sounds like you might have bought it around 2012 or 2013. I'm just guessing, doing the math in my head.
That would have been 2011, 2010, around there somewhere.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you've done pretty well with your real estate, it sounds like. Has there, let me ask, has there been a best decision in real estate and likewise a worst decision?
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky with the with my real estate. Selling my condo, because I tried to sell it 4 years ago, and it was a bit difficult. So when we bought the house, we were having 2 mortgages at the time. So buying was a good decision then because things were kind of, it was a good position for us. But selling was a bit difficult. So kind of with the same sides of the coin on at the exact same time.
Interesting. Well, very good. And so, are you currently owning rental properties, or do your parents own rental properties at this time?
No, they actually their retirement plan. They sold their properties and they moved off to Vancouver Island. So they're on the island in their retirement plans.
That's great. They're great. And you currently don't own a condo or another rental property.
Nope, just our primary residence. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Zach, when someone says, "Show me the data," will you really love it or not? Are you a data guy?
I am. Yeah. I love seeing graphs. Love seeing numbers. That helps me think a lot.
Okay. Super. And that's what I was thinking. So you're more of a walker than a car guy. You live in downtown? Do you own a car?
I gave my vehicle to my baby brother, my truck, and we have 1 vehicle for our household.
What is it now? What is it that you love most about living in Calgary? And is Calgary home?
Wherever you graduate high school, I kind of feel is where you feel is home.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary is kind of a hidden gem. Outside, especially hanging out in some of the space circles, a lot of that happens out in Eastern Canada. So you hear a lot of what they think of Alberta in Calgary. And my experience from being downtown, being close to kind of, in the Kensington area, in the Bridgeland area with small shops, walkable neighborhoods, those kind of things. It's really friendly. It's really clean. you know, it's just a nice place to be. And up until recently, the economy was good, and jobs were um, more available, let's say, than other places. So there was a lot of opportunities here, a lot of startup culture. The tech scene was just getting going. So there's a lot of excitement um, in the city, and it just felt like kind of whatever you wanted to do, you could get a few people together, and get an idea and run with it. And that was what would happen in the city.
Wow, that's great. And what about the boom bust economy of Calgary? How do you cope with it? And do you save for a rainy day? How does the boom bust economy affect your mindset?
Poorly. I'm not a big fan. I work mostly in projects. So, when a project spins up, I've got a lot of work. When it doesn't, I don't. So I've had a few bouts of unemployment over the years here in Calgary, but I've always been able to rebound and get back on it. I've made do. I don't worry too much about it, but yeah, it is what it is. It's part of living here.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that we're able to diversify a bit to soften that curve.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's something you just have to deal with.
You're currently working at Ascension West as the executive director. What is Ascension West? What are you doing there?
So Ascension West is my space pet project. So what it is Calgary and Alberta has a huge engineering and manufacturing capacity. We do mega projects. We do billion-dollar projects every day as course of action. So, and not a lot of places do that. What Calgary and Canada especially, we forget how special we are. And we often, just think, oh, that's just the way it is. But a lot of places don't do that. So we're great at mega projects. And the space industry right now is ramping up to begin resource extraction and put a permanent base on the moon. So Ascension West is an effort to tie these two things together. There's going to be a requirement for manufacturers and engineering capacity in the space industry, and Alberta has a lot of it. And I'm trying to get those two groups to kind of sit in the same room and have a beer together and realize they have more in common than they realize.
Wow. Interesting. And so is Ascension West, is it paying your salary right now, or is it a passion project? What's happening with that?
It's basically a passion project. I mean, you're listening to it. It's myself and a buddy of mine at the U of C. We have, I know some other guys out in Saskatchewan that are keen. But of course, we launched in January. We planned it in November, launched in January, and then COVID kind of changed all our plans. So it's definitely a passion project.
Interesting. In 2014, you attended the International Space University, and then you did a simulated Mars mission in 2018. What is that? Tell us.
Yeah. So, like I said, for the first part of my life, space was, just something I pay attention to. You kind of listen to podcasts or get the news and kind of know what was going on. In about 2010 and 2011, that's when SpaceX first started coming on the scene and things started to get interesting again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember back then, that's when Mars 1 launched, and the big call out for people who wanted to go on a one-way mission to Mars. And I thought, well, they're taking applications. I'll throw my name in. We'll see what happens. And I was actually selected. So I made it to the second round of finalists. And I didn't make it to the third. Now, Mars 1 is they're now defunct. They no longer exist.
Oh.
However, that gave me the first kind of taste of actually being involved in space, because I went on, I was on some interviews and some other things like that. So I then started to think, well, maybe it's not just, me from the outside looking in. Maybe I could participate. And the International Space University was it's something I always looked at and considered. but I never thought it was for me. And then I applied to them as well. In 2014, they were in Montreal. They actually changed location every year, so it was a short distance for me. And it's a 9-week program where you learn everything about space. So you learn about the history, about the politics, the engineering, the medical side, the social pressures of space, and basically had a crash course like Space 101 everything. And then through that, like you said, in 2018, there were some alumni of the ISU that did a simulated Mars mission in Utah. So the MDRS, the Mars Desert Research Station, is run by the Mars Society. And every year they have a slot available for International Space University alumni. And I was on the backup crew until the primary crew engineer wasn't able to make it because he had a NASA deadline he had to meet. So I got bumped up to the primary crew and spent 2 weeks in isolation pretending we were on Mars. So mock spacesuits, freeze-dried food, can't go outside, mission reports, all that kind of stuff like that, to basically go through the motions to figure out what do we would like to live on Mars.
Wow. And did you enjoy it? Do you still want to go to Mars?
Well, I mean, as your listeners know, isolation is a difficult thing.
Right. We all do that now.
It takes a special kind of person to be able to do that. And I'm also getting motion sickness very well, so I don't know how well I would do on the rockets.
Right.
So I would love to travel to Mars. I don't know if I'm astronaut material. However, that's kind of why I started Ascension West, is to say, if I'm not the astronaut that goes, I can at least be the engineer that helps that person get on their way, and be part of that experience. Do the best that I can in the spot I think I would fit the best. And right now, I think that's figuring out how we build things that will work on Mars. How do we, build these machineries for the moon and Mars? How do we grow food? How do we get energy? How do we do all the things we're struggling with on Earth? Figure out how to do that in outer space. And those are huge questions right now that people are trying to answer right now.
Zach, I assume you know about this and will be able to enlighten me a little bit about what I'm about to bring up. In Calgary, we have a lot of wealth here. 2 boom cycles ago, 2007-8, there was a chance to buy your way to space, buy your way to Mars. I think it was $1 million per person. And one of my son's friends, his family, bought the ticket. And they were going like at least once a year, twice a year, down to wherever, I don't know, was it Arizona or Utah, for their space training. They still haven't gone to space as far as I know. Do you know anything about that project? And
was that Virgin Galactic?
Probably. I don't know. I don't.
So there was, around that time, Elon Musk believed that a ticket to Mars would be $500,000 was his estimate per person. And Richard Branson owns a company called Virgin Galactic, and they're doing suborbital flights. And I think a ticket was $200,000 per person.
Oh, it's cheap.
Chump change. You kind of go into orbit and you get to like see the picture of the Earth and get that you technically become an astronaut because you pass the 100-kilometer line. They've had, they're a company like anything else. They have investors and things like that. So they've had some ups and downs. Now again, moving into January, what I heard was they were planning on flying their first clients this year. And Richard Branson was going to be flying himself to prove that it was safe and come back down. However, with the current situation, I don't know what that's going at, but there's been a few start and stops with space tourism and things like that. So it's very close. It's one of those, the stars have to align in order for, the economy and all those things for it to move forward. But it's a very real possibility. You can see space hotels the next 4 or 5 years, and the ultra rich not buying a yacht, but having a private room in a space hotel somewhere.
Interesting. Actually, it was just 2 days ago. I was out for a bike ride with my son, and we biked past the home of these folks when they were out raking their leaves, and we said, "Oh, well, we just go here, and then we'll come back." And regrettably, they weren't there. I was really curious to find out how their space trip was going, family space vacation. I don't think they've made it yet. So Zach, tell the audience a little bit about, why you are or why you're not staying in Calgary. What's your plans with Calgary?
So the reason I was staying in Calgary is just because I think there's so much potential in this city. It has a great art scene. It has a great nightlife. Downtown core empties out a little bit, but if you know where to look, there are some fantastic locations here in Calgary, and we have the most engineering people per capita in North America other than Houston.
Wow.
Like, we have an incredibly educated population, highly technical population. And I think that if we can take the skills that we've learned in oil and gas and our energy industry and apply those at other industries, there's nothing that this city, this province can't do. I think we have all the ability to tackle any kind of problem that come our way. We just need to get it in our heads that we can. And I really hope, I'm trying to push people along that way to say we can do whatever we want. Because it's an amazing city and has amazing people in it. And I think it's going to do amazing things in the future.
Well, that's great. And I love your enthusiasm. Coming towards the end there for our interview, Zach, a couple of questions for you. I guess, what advice would you give your younger self? And what ask would you have of this audience? Is there anything that, I or we can assist you with? And if you had an ask of maybe the population of Calgary, what would that ask be?
So the advice to my younger self would probably be more patient with myself, with others, with everything. Things move fast and slow at the same time. I'm now realizing at the ripe old age of 37. And just to realize that, people are your biggest asset and kind of your biggest hurdle as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's an idea might look good on paper, but getting the right team together and executing it properly is the hardest part of any job. So, yeah, I tell myself, be patient, stick with it, and great things will happen. And I guess my ask to Calgary is very, very similar. Things are not looking great for the province, kind of any way you shape it. The whole world is learning things about itself that it didn't think it was going to have to learn in 2020, but that we do have an amazing skill set. And now is the time, if it was to be any time at all, that we learn to apply that skill set in other areas. So, if you're a tank manufacturer in Alberta, you can manufacture tanks for anything, for any industry, any piece of machinery. So don't limit yourself to one thing or one industry or one client base. Reach out, and I think people would be surprised at when they see what Alberta can do, how valuable we actually are. We just haven't had that much exposure outside of oil and gas. So, my ask to Calgary is take your talents and let them shine in other areas, because we can be a global city if we make that leap and show the world what we have to offer.
Well, that's great. Well, that's a terrific ask. And Zach, I want to thank you much for being on the show. I want to wish you all the best in helping Calgary transition to other sectors. And I wish you all the best. I look forward to following and seeing you and others get to space.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll talk again when we start launching people to space and look at the real estate market on the moon.
I look forward to episode 2 and 3 later on. Thanks so much, Zach.
Excellent. Bye.